You gotta say something, or we can, what are we doing first?
Let's say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Before we get started, I wanted everyone to know I'm a new man and I want very much to be conscious of everyone's time. And so we're going to try to work through this hour and a half max. What I'm interested in doing, if there's something that we can reasonably table and move to the next meeting, let's do it. Another thing I was thinking is we were so busy and there was so much going on last meeting that we formed some subcommittees and I forgot, other than the ones I was on, what they were. And so what I'd like to do is for the meetings moving forward, move the subcommittee reports under section D. So the subcommittees can then report on what's going on. The chief will always go first. And then we can have the subcommittees. That will help us keep on track. So can I have the roll, please?
Commissioner Terrell. Here. Commissioner Burke. Here. Commissioner Dobbs.
Here.
Chair Dolezal.
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Here.
And we have Chief Mendoza and Counselor Metcalf.
Yeah, here.
Here.
All right. We're looking at the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Then can we have a motion to?
I make a motion, we accept it.
A second.
So moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Accepted. All right, moving into presentations and reports. Chief.
Thank you. So I've got a slideshow that'll just kind of help keep me on track. And as we discussed and promised, I'm going to do an overview of the contract law enforcement services with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. So what I plan to cover tonight are the history of our contracts, the contract city model overview of the city contracts, the basic contract structure, and the benefits, which is I think kind of the main question. Looking back at history, I always enjoy this part because in 1978, Estacada was the first city to contract municipal police services with the Sheriff's Office. And then following that, Wilsonville and Happy Valley as well. In 2009, there was an update to those contracts. There was a bunch of people from the cities and the Sheriff's Office that got together and updated the contract and kind of modeled it after, I think they went up and visited King County in Washington and modeled after what they were doing up there. And then just recently, we've essentially finished our updated negotiations. And that was about a year-long process that we went through, maybe 18 months process that we went through with Happy Valley, Wilsonville, and Estacada, and the Sheriff's Office. Currently, we're looking at 4.25 full-time employees or FTEs for Estacada. Happy Valley is at 17 and Wilsonville at 23. Basic difference between these two contracts, a full city model and the flexible service. As you are aware, Estacada is on the flexible service, and that's essentially defined by what we're looking at there, population under 10,000, 5 or fewer FTE. There's no minimum staff, meaning if someone were to call in sick, they're not necessary to be replaced. It just reverts back to a county district, and then you have a part-time chief. For the full-time model, It's a population over 10,000, more than 5 FTE, excluding supervisors. Overtime is already factored in with roughly 20,000 per position or FTE. Minimum staff is covered by overtime, so if somebody were to call in sick, they would be replaced at an overtime rate. A full-time chief, and you have detective and CSO options. There's a few other bells and whistles there, but that's kind of the gist of it. There is no, there would be an automatic trigger of moving to that full-time model if the population was over 10,000 or the FTEs went above 5. But at this point, Estacada has that option to stay with the flexible or move to the full-time model. One other kind of something to look forward to, a perk for this full-time city model is have the decals on the car denoting that it's, in this case, Wilsonville Police, and then a city uniform, which is black in color with city patches, just identifying as a city police department, even though they are the deputies that are working. Currently, the deputies are wearing the tan and green like the rest of the deputies here in Estacada. Thought it was important to kind of point out some of the services that are not billed in or invoiced to the city for this contract, and that would be overtime that's supported for major callouts. For example, if there was a major crime and detectives responded, or a massive amount of patrol services. Great example actually is the incident we had at the school where we had 30 plus officers, deputies show up. Estacada doesn't receive a bill for that. It's just built into the contract. This cooperative working with the sheriff's office. Special unit activation, SWAT team, the crisis negotiation team, our craft team, which is our crime scene reconstruction team, and our air unit. We have had the SWAT team deploy to Estacada before, and again, that's not you're not getting a big bill for all the SWAT members that are showing up and the crisis negotiators and whatnot. The only portion that you would pay, and that is if a deputy assigned to the city was on one of those teams, and then you're essentially just paying their salary for being there. And then, of course, any work that's conducted that's not city related. So if a deputy worked overtime out in the county, had court that wasn't related to a city call, that type of thing, that wouldn't be invoiced to the city. And then, so we'll dig into some of the benefits here. And we really you would create what we all have already is a pool of deputies that give you that small town police department feel, right? That these are the deputies that are assigned here. They're here for, a commitment minimum of a year, but they can be there obviously longer, and, get to know them. They get to know the city and kind of the ins and outs. But they're also, I think it's important to show that they're supported from a large and diversified, experienced organization like the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Extended absences over 30 days is kind of unique, but this is something that was really nailed down in the new contract, that if a deputy that is assigned to Estacada is gone for longer than 30 days, let's say they were deployed to the military for 6 months, after 30 days, Estacada would receive a new deputy to replace that person. I think that's important to note because it'd be one of those, when we compare these contracts to having your own police department, it's not as easy to just replace an employee that, especially one that is coming back in a short time, 6 months, let's say. You can't just hire somebody short term to fill that void. You would just have to essentially, the rest of your employees would kind of have to toe the line to pick up the slack. So if you had a 5-person squad and one was missing, then everyone would have to work an extra 10 hours a week just to cover. The sheriff's office has the personnel to backfill and absorb those day-to-day vacancies, which is a benefit for the city. And then also the ability to prioritize the staffing for the city. And then this, I mean, really getting down into the details here, but sheriff's office maintains all of the training, equipment, fleet, supervision, liability, which is huge, especially in law enforcement. All of the policies, we deal with all the complaints and the HR issues, union contracts, and then employee assistance for all the personnel. So you have the backing of, you know, the county's HR and all these entities that help support the sheriff's office that are now supporting the city. Looking into our investigations division, what's unique about the sheriff's office in Clackamas County is we have, you know, essentially say we're the biggest game in town, right? All of your other agencies, smaller agencies in Clackamas County, city police departments have detectives, but they have like general purpose detectives that will handle, you know, anything that comes in for a detective. It's kind of being a jack of all trades, which is good because it helps them become well-rounded. However, at the sheriff's office, we not only have general detectives that are assigned to some of the cities, we also have detectives that specialize in different areas. And so we see all the specialties up there, starting with homicide and violent crimes, property crimes, child abuse. I wanted to note that every agency in the county, city and county receive referrals from DHS, and those could be child abuse, so they could also be vulnerable adults referrals, and those have to be reviewed and you know, essentially worked. And for us, all of those are reviewed by a detective sergeant, and it's just a little bit more oversight. It's important that those don't fall through the cracks. So we have our detective sergeants review every single one of those. And they do that for the contract cities as well. We have crime scene investigators, people that specialize in that. It's a photo of one of them there, processing some evidence. Computer forensics, forensic imaging, property and evidence professionals, forensic video analysis, investigations analysis, internet crimes against children. They actually work in a task force capacity as well, but we have a detective specifically assigned to that. We have a cold case detective, and then our school resources are all supervised by detectives, and some of them work with detectives in the time that they're, you know, in the summers when school's not in session. Also, falling under our detective division, we have a great partnership, Family Justice Center, which is partnership with the DA's office and Clackamas Women's Services. Our adult sex crimes unit and detectives are assigned in that area, also with our domestic violence enhanced response team, DIVERT, which has a domestic violence detectives as well. And those are wraparound services. It's really a model for really the country of how we can provide these wraparound services for our domestic violence victims. It's actually a really good program. And then the next slide covers our task forces. We have a lot of task forces that we're a part of, and the first and probably the largest that works specifically in Clackamas County is the CCITF, which is our drug task force. We do have other agencies that have members on that team, but it's run by the sheriff's office and supervised by the sheriff's office. Also, we have a deputy that's assigned to the U.S. Marshal Service and the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And what's really interesting with those is it helps, those task force helps really like it helps our patrol and our detectives if we identify, a criminal that has committed a Measure 11 crime that we need to find. We can tap our resources at the U.S. Marshal Service with our team member there, and they'll take their team to go out and find that particular person for us. It's very effective, and we work really well with them. So that's a huge benefit for us. The award here was the photo there was for our ITF team, the drug task force. They do some really good work, kind of one of those like kind of in the shadows type of thing, because they're always trying to find the next person up the ladder, but obviously behind the scenes they're doing a lot of good hard work. And we also have people on the human trafficking detail and and we're a big part of the major crimes team for Clackamas County. When we look at patrol resources, we have aviation unit. We have an airplane that is utilized quite often. It's pretty impressive. There's a lot of high-tech equipment in that plane. I know that we've got a lot of that equipment on grants, and as actually I think there's a couple planes in Portland, one in Washington County, and there's another agency that I don't remember, but we all work together. And I know that they're all pretty impressed with the plane that we have. We use airplanes in this part of the country. Just we find it more cost effective than helicopters. Helicopters are very expensive, and we're able to get the work done with the plane that we have. In the aviation unit, we also have our drones. We have several drone operators and several drones that we can utilize for smaller operations, or just getting a closer view of things than we would be able to with the plane. And then they can be deployed very quickly. Some of the deputies have them in their cars, and the larger drones, they're stationed different places with different deputies, and they can be deployed. We have behavioral health program. We work with the county on that. Crime prevention, explosive disposal unit, or EDU, and that is a metro area team, and we have a deputy that's on that team, and he's the only law enforcement person in Clackamas County, from a Clackamas County agency, that's on that team. So that's a big asset for us. Crisis negotiations, patrol canine. I should know this off the top of my head, but I think we have 5 or 6 patrol dogs at this time. We have our Marine unit, our SWAT team, and our traffic team as well. And kind of going back to the patrol teams and the detective divisions, it's really just a way that we can bring to bear, a ton of resources to any particular problem, just because of the vast experience and knowledge that these folks have. And with that, knowledge and experience from the sheriff's office, we do a lot of in-house training, and we do a lot of external training. We have personnel that are EVOC instructors, which is the emergency vehicle operation driving. It seems, for us driving patrol cars, it's a high liability thing, right? You're driving all the time. You're bound to be accidents. We have people that run from us. So that's definitely one of the things that we want to make sure that we're training our people on and doing a good job with that. We have drug recognition evaluators. We have some of the best personnel that can do DUI investigations in the state. That's actually a very difficult investigation to go through because case law is constantly changing on that. And so that's kind of a subject area that you really want to stay on top of and make sure that our deputies are aware of what those changes are so that we're doing things the correct way. So we have people that teach throughout the state with that. Firearms instructors, defensive tactics instructors, patrol tactics, active shooter trainers, first aid, CPR, tactical first aid and CPR as well. And then we have instructors that go to the basic academy in Salem and teach new recruits from across the state. We have detectives that teach at the detective academy and sergeants and above that teach actually at the sergeant's academy as well. And then we have our facilities and the range all in-house, which is just another added benefit for our personnel because we're able to really train our own people and bring in people from the outside and train them as well. It seems like having a range is one of those things that's we're very fortunate for. I know a lot of agencies are looking, they're struggling to find range time to get in and just do their basic firearms training. Our deputies train every month. We go to the range for 1 hour and we do defensive tactics 1 hour a month, which is both of those two combined. So if you do 1 month, 1 hour every month, it's 12. I think there's 2 months that they take off and do something at first aid happens and some other things, but it's roughly 22 hours of training and for those two topics, and the minimum for the state is 8 hours. So our deputies are definitely getting above and beyond what the minimum is. It is impressive for our agency. So I kind of went through all the teams and resources quickly, but I figured you guys would have some questions. If I could field any of those, I'm happy.
Shirley? Sure. No, a lot of, it's big, a lot bigger than you would think.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, there's, and really, if you, there are advantages to having a small, small police department, but really the amount of resources and experience that you can gain from having this cooperative effort with a larger agency, I think it really does benefit the city and the community. I know, I speak for myself. If I were, as a taxpayer, if I'm in a city, I think this is kind of the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, they're out on the highway a lot more now. It's that, but sometimes they need to change where they're at, but,
Sure, you can't hear. People are trying to.
okay. Other than that, they're out on, they're down by the timber park, so people are getting used to them being at that timber park thing. So they moved down by the river mill the other day and I watched him get 2 or 3 different people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
because
Yeah.
They moved. So
Yeah.
they know where.
When you shine a light on things, they tend to move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is all this information available to the public since if anybody doesn't watch this, can they easily find this somewhere so they can?
I made this presentation specifically for this. The bulk of that information could be pulled just from our website though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to present that to the city council?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I want to thank you. I know the last time we talked, we addressed the 4th Street specifically about moving your deputies there. And I saw people get tickets within 2 days. So thank you.
Yep. Happy to help.
Jim, any questions?
No, I'm good. I did see Deputy Bigler out on 4th and Main there with our new traffic signage there. So I know that's going to be a learning curve for the public, but he was making sure that he was highly visible there last week. So great to see. Appreciate it, Chief.
You bet. It's hard to miss him in that big truck.
He was hiding pretty good there. That was good.
So I have a couple, but you might need discretion with answering some of them.
Sure.
And that's, so first off, though, Tasha's idea about that data where the city could see that, I think that would be really neat, to be able to access that, appropriately, whatever
Mhm.
you guys think is appropriate. I had no idea that laundry list was so long. Secondly, you know, when I was looking around a little bit, like, I think Malala has maybe 17 FTEs, and I think I don't know what the population is nowadays, and I think Mount Angel has like 7 or something like that. And so, and I think you and I have talked before about, is there a level of FTEs, some ratio or something like that? And, you know, we talk about response time and that kind of stuff. So my question roundabout is, you know, we're right at the cusp before the contract becomes different. And so if we wanted to add 2 or 3 more FTEs, what does that look like? Is that a completely different contract, or is it modifying the existing one? Could probably figure out a little bit about what the cost per would be or something like that. But, you know, that sort of thing. What if we wanted to go ahead and increase the force, the local force, a little more rapidly than what the plans are right now? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. So adding FTEs, it does take a little bit of time, right? So it is something we want to project in the future to plan for. And that has been something that that I've been working with the city manager on, and currently the plan is we've already made a request for the next FTE, the next new deputy in Estacada, which roughly be we're probably looking at March of next year. So that'll take us to 5 FTE, which is then right on the cusp. The year after that would then be another deputy position, and or because the next person that you bring on, you're moving into the full-time model. So you'd be looking at a full-time chief at that point as well. Thing to keep in mind is when you do make that jump into the full-time model, the cost goes up, but and I would say there's probably a significant jump, but part of that is because of the required overtime to backfill. So currently you don't have to backfill if somebody's at training or somebody is sick or on vacation. And you know, we could figure out, you know, I mean, I could look up and tell you exactly how many hours each employee gets for, you know, sick time for a year and vacation time for a year. And you can just factor that they'll be gone that amount of time and multiply that by their pay. So you'll know that's why when we looked at the full-time model, there was 20,000 in overtime per employee. So that creates a little bit of a jump. One of the advantages that Estacada will have, to be honest, is for my position, I'm already a part-time FTE, so you don't have to pay to add that FTE, which you pay to add a deputy FTE. So there's that was a discussion that the city manager and I had with our finance director of the county, which is a significant savings, I would say, for the city when you're moving into that full-time model. But that is the plan right now, is 1 deputy in March, and then the following year, so we'd be looking at 26 moving into that full-time model. If you know, we could look at what the different scheduling options are for how many deputies you have, which is really what's going to drive down those response times and the coverage, you know, the number per 1,000 for the city, all these factors that you want to look at. But moving into that full-time model is kind of that next step, and then deciding where that sweet spot is for where the city is, and then what the projected growth is, and then planning ahead. So kind of a long-winded answer to say that we're already planning to move into that here in the next 2 years. That could be accelerated if that's something that the city council decides that they want to do. Accelerated in that adding additional people, it does take time. We wouldn't be able to, probably wouldn't be able to move up that March date if we want to add somebody sooner, just because of the amount of time it does take to hire people and get them trained and bring them on. And then, as you know, because I've talked about it before, that, you know, we are full steam ahead of trying to hire up at the sheriff's office to get up to full staff. We've been doing an excellent job with that. I think I saw the numbers today or yesterday that we're at 16 so far for this year of new deputies that we've hired on patrol. And we've been averaging 30 a year. So we're halfway through the year and we're still, you know, on par with what we've been doing the 3 previous years.
Has hiring gotten any better? I read articles about some of the big cities.
It has gotten better. It's still, you know, it's still a struggle. We're still looking for good people. And it's always been difficult to get into law enforcement, always been difficult to pass the backgrounds and to find people that, you know, want to stick with this career long term. But you know, we still have those same challenges. I think the pool has just gotten smaller. So that's what we're all struggling with.
Thank you.
Are we gonna have a patrol at nighttime after 11, eventually have one during the night?
Yep, we have that now.
Do you?
Yep.
Good.
Any questions? Any more questions?
Once you get to that, what's the cost on the uniformed officer with city badging?
It's actually, think on that. There may be I'll have to get you a firm answer on that. There's going to be a changeover cost because of the purchase in the uniforms. The way that this new costing model works in the invoicing is, if instead of a pool of money and you know, if a deputy needed a new shirt, it comes out of the pool of money. It's going to be invoiced directly for that deputy. So if an escated deputy needs a new uniform, then we buy him a new uniform, and that gets invoiced to the city. So I would just have to find out what the uniform cost is and then multiply that by the.
Yeah,
by
even
people
if we
have.
could get like a neighborhood, say for a vehicle badging and.
I do know the vehicle striping is $1,600 per vehicle.
1,600, 1,600.
Correct. Uniforms, I'd have to get you an answer on that. I'm not certain.
That's actually less than what I would have guessed. So
Mhm.
There's no more questions. Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Okay, moving on. Let's skip over, on item 4. I asked the chief to, I know Clackamas County, I think the commissioners did come up with a new, RV parking rule. And I thought, it'd be helpful to have the chief speak to that, directly. And so, I thought I'd table that topic to, next meeting. And then right below it, the item 5, Red Fox to Cazadero Trail. I know that was a big, quite an eye opener at the last meeting, and I thought I remember might have someone take a look at that. I wonder if there's any report on that.
I'll give you a kind of a generic one. I know that our deputies have been down there and they've been addressing an issue. I signed that as a specific project to one of our deputies who has been working that. I know there was a concern about one particular, we'll say, location or residence that we wanted to contact. I was going to go down there with him myself. I haven't gone with him yet, but he may have done that. I'm not certain the current status, but I do know that that's been worked on.
Right.
And I can update you as well and tell you that Rapid Response is the company name, PG&E, and both ODOT they contract or they use them as some sort of contractor to clean up. And as far as what has been discussed at the city hall or at the last city council meetings is that they've gone through and started cleaning that up, or that it's been ordered. One of the two, I can't remember which one, but
Right.
they are going through. I know they picked up a bunch of the water piping and stuff like that. So now the push is going to be just on summer traffic and new transit population that we're starting to see as the sun has come out. So-
Right. Any questions on that, Jim? Okay. Thank you. All right. Questions, Carrie? No? Okay. Moving to item 1 then, the fentanyl information. Jim and I were working on that. We talked a lot, but anyways, I did spend quite a bit of time looking at that fentanyl and remember remember the idea was to maybe identify something that we could put on our page or something like that. And again, just like this speed hump, there's so much data. It's, you know, Brian can do his dissertation on this kind of stuff. There is so much data. And so, I actually didn't realize, besides Clackamas County, there's 6 contiguous counties, that touch Clackamas County. And the idea was to, just gather data from those counties. And so I went ahead and did that. And I don't know if it's in the packet or not. Yeah, it is. The hard part was figuring out a way that it presented well, that you could easily read the information. But and all this data was adopted from the Oregon Department of Transportation. And I just was looking for the extremes. So the earliest number and the latest number, just to show the extreme. That's what I was trying to show. And so drug-only fatalities, it was a 289% increase. Alcohol and drug-involved fatalities, 300% increase. The numbers were all gigantic, which is no surprise to anybody. And then looking at the drug-involved fatalities by county, Clackamas County specifically. And I looked at 2013 and then compared to 2022, again, looking for that dramatic number. And it was a 1,700% increase. Again, it goes from 1 to 17. So the gross number is what it is, but the percentage itself is shocking. And Marion County's drug-involved fatalities was up 1,300%. Washington County was up 900%. Multnomah was up 350%. All the numbers were, except for Hood River and Wasco, there's not much that's being reported for these sorts of things out there. And then I did a combined, all 7 counties combined. And so of the 7 contiguous counties, drug-involved fatalities was up 673%. Total polysubstance fatalities were up 460%. Total substance involved fatalities was up 270%. And then total substance involved fatals and serious injuries was up 248%. So the numbers are really, really dramatic. And then the last thing I think I looked at was just some bullet point items. 4 of the top 5 counties for drug deaths due to drugs are in our area. Males make up over twice as many deaths from drugs as females. The number of, and this was, I didn't realize this, but the number of drug deaths victims is similar in the age brackets from 25 to 64. I thought for sure the youngsters might have a higher number, and they don't. You know, the number of 65 plus is just as big, and I had no idea about that. Over half of the drug deaths die from one substance, and then methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl are the 3 most common substances. So I just don't know what we do with this. I mean, is this kind of thing appropriate for a website, or do we want, I also picked out some graphics that I thought would look good, but in terms of these kinds of numbers, is that the kind of thing that we want And I'm looking for comments. Okay. What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, I would say it's an epidemic. Undeniable. It's disgusting, sad that that's where we're at. But I would say that there's a threat to our community from it. I mean, you're saying that our county has a 1,700% increase. Now, we're a large county, granted. But that should hit everybody at home right square in the jaw, you know? That it's out there, it's in your face, whether you see it or not. So, I mean, I think we have a duty to our citizens to provide resources. It's just what resources do you provide? Where to find help? Or do you provide statistics, right? And you could do both. I don't know. I don't know how you want to do it. My question would be, how can we make it to where it fits on maybe one page so that we're not doing the click down the rabbit hole thing to
Right.
get to it, and
Right.
it saves staff time in that manner too? What would be the most effective way for you? Like a one-page format?
One page format would be best, just the one link that we could put under like traffic and public safety resources, linking to the statistics and where people could go to get help or report issues, I think would be the best way to go about it. And then just sharing, hey, this information is available on the website here on Facebook. And
So instead of maybe like trying to graph anything, just bullet points. And so something like Clackamas County drug involved fatalities has increased 1,700% in the last 9 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think that, yeah, I mean, you can make that one statement and then you could, I mean, this is where this is at, obviously your guys' discretion, but I could see. I think it's important to highlight that so that people know the severity of it, right? Like that it's not just something that you've picked to just put up there because, oh, fentanyl is here like everywhere else now. But at the same time, I think what should your focus be? Should it be on providing, again, the resource to get
Right.
help, or should it be on identifying safety tactics or things that we can do to make sure that kids inherently, one, either aren't using or aren't exposed to it, you know, like preventive measures, if you will. So I like your idea of a bullet list. I just think that whatever we do, I think it needs to be just in a one-page format, like she's saying, just so
Right.
that you're not digging.
Just so it's easy to read and it's not, you don't have to go 2 or 3 pages to figure out this percentage. Just put it right out there on the front and say, and then put the numbers that they can get help.
I'd highlight the non-emergency number on there as well, just so that
Yeah.
people have a place to report to. I mean, I'm sure that's somewhere on our website as is, but we could maybe just highlight it so that it's just another right there as they're reading this information, they know
Yep.
where they would call to discuss. That would be a non-emergency call, right?
I did see in the material some graphics that I liked. One was this particular one. Because it was simple, there's a link. This one as well. Conveys a good message, and then there's a link. And then there was a lot of, I do this a lot with what I do is myths and facts kind of thing. And this, and so these 2 pages together, like a myths and facts or a quick facts kind of thing, but keeping it simple. And then with the links.
Could you do that as like a banner on that one page and then it be hyperlinked? Like where if they click on the banner, it's hyperlinked. That way you're still maintaining a one-page format, but
Yep.
because that's just, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got that from like
You bet.
Oregon State or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Is that plausible?
yeah, you could also, if you wanted to show those images, we could create a flyer. And then that would link to the webpage that has the resources and then more statistics that people could look at. Just to keep that one simple page and then give the people viewing it the opportunity to go find more information at this site on the website.
Jim?
Oh, we can't hear you, Jim.
Thank you, Evelyn. Appreciate that. A little different being at home. My apologies. Just to add, if we could put something, pictures, kids aren't in school anymore. And it looks like it got reported a few days ago that some needles were found down by the dock by Timber Park. So I think that we need to let people know that there's going to be things that could possibly be found in Estacada, unfortunately, but to actually know what they look like in order for kids to stay away from them. Just a thought.
Question. Do we have, or do you guys have a template that is like a something that you could fill in and then staff could just email out to your list? It's like you could even obviously have people subscribe. I don't know how we would do it, but like sometimes when there's things that go on and like with a new announcement at City Hall, they put like a boo and you get an email saying that this was going on and it's like a little manager's update. Could you do a what's happening in Estacada thing from the Traffic and Public Safety Committee? Do we have a template for that?
There's no template, but there is the city newsletter that gets sent out to people that have subscribed. So if you wanted to create a flyer or some kind of infographic with that information, you could add it into there and then everyone that's subscribed would be able to see it.
Did you put it on in the water bill for people that don't have?
The newsletter
that.
goes out with the water bill.
Okay.
So that drug people community at the wharf or dock is huge. Can you, I mean, is it considered here from a legal standpoint? Is that considered hearsay? Or it was reported that, and then could you send something out like that to the community? Because I would want to know that. That I would never think that that would be a risk if I wanted to go take the kids and go, or grandkids and go, jump in the lake. It would never occur to me that would be an issue down there, but it is. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think I would probably maybe defer that to the city on if that's something you want to put in the newsletter.
Right.
If having maybe organizing like a cleanup with that specific purpose of, taking sharps containers and making sure that we're looking for those types of things would be, one idea. It's probably, it's never the most popular thing to place these sharp containers places, but it makes for a place for a safe disposal. If you do find needles, not that we would encourage anyone to pick them up, but if you did, I'm not sure what I would recommend for that. I think it would be for the city to determine if they wanted to put that out in the newsletter.
I mean, I
I-
think that's something we could ask Peter.
Yeah, that would, be great to discuss with Melanie and Peter. Cause I know on Facebook, we've, updated some things with the missing woman that was found, asking for information, or I think there's another update that we posted about the supposed gun being pulled on someone, which turned out didn't happen. And those were verified instances where the city was able to post something. But yeah, I think it would need to be run by Melanie or the attorney before being posted.
Is there, in this area of where kids are gonna go with water and, families, is there a timing where there can be, because we know the stuff is happening in different areas where folks go down to the water and on a trail, is this under Don DeRosa's type thing to monitor or have these things monitored for the city to check this stuff for cleanup? Is that possible?
I'm not sure. If it's not city property, I don't know if they would be able to monitor that or do
Well,
cleanup, but if it's like city-owned property, yes, we could report that to Public Works.
so at
to be
Timber
cleaned up.
Park,
That's PG.
who would do
Not
cleanup
timber.
there?
Not
That would be PGE.
That would be PGE. So
Yes,
anything going into Timber Park falls under their umbrella, right?
yes.
Oh, okay, that is not part of Timber Park. That is part of the Estacada Park system, the walk that goes down there. The trail, it's a boat ramp, it's right behind the Forest Service building, about 3/4 of the way down. And when I was on Park and Rec, we did go down there every once in a while and clean that, but that is the city property. That is not PGE property. Okay,
So
We would have to verify that, but
Yeah,
if if we could verify that we're the owner, I don't see why we couldn't have it looked at.
yeah, that was, my thoughts are, okay, stuff's happening. You don't know when if it happens in the wee hours or whatever, but you know, where this is summertime, kids are out, everybody's gonna hit the river.
I think this is a directly to Dawn phone call,
yeah.
to be honest with you.
yeah.
Call Dawn and ask him. If he says it's
Yeah.
his, I'm sure he'll handle it
Awareness
right
of-
then and there.
Of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that after hours Public Works number that I sent all of you a while back. If there was an instance like that, you could call that number and be like, hey, this is here. Are you able to clean it up or not? That'd be a report to them.
How
And
about
if not, they'd
something,
let you know.
Part of the portal.
because you don't want someone just grabbing that stuff. You know, you were talking about sharps before, but maybe some kind of warning or bulletin or what have you, that if you see something like this, please call this number right away or something like that. It's disturbing that we're finding these, you know, month after month, we're finding stuff closer and closer to the center of town.
I think if you chime in there, I think if you establish that trail is owned by the city, I think it would be fairly easy to post a sign with a phone number. If, you know, if you notice anything that needs to be cleaned up or, you know, the repair for this area, contact this number.
And that's something else you could also share on Facebook and the website, which the number is already on the website, but saying specifically, if you see this, here's the number to call, we could add that to the website.
So is this a motion type thing? Because if we make a motion, does that?
I don't think you need to make a motion on it, because it's just you all agreeing on one thing to post to the website. It's not like something that needs to be completely.
Well, what I was
official.
thinking was determining, you know, who owns the trail.
You don't even need to do that. You
Ye-
could literally just call Dawn and ask him and he'll have an answer for you right then and there, whether, Yeah.
Okay,
because this is one of those items that he say that the answer is, yes, yes, we own that trail. Then we could tell him, this is what's been seen. Can you have your guys go check that? And he'll send somebody to go look at that. Whereas we don't need the motion to have it done. You just,
Okay.
this is one of those things he will just handle. And now if it comes back that no, PGE owns this, that's a different conversation where then we email me, I will call Melanie and I will ask her to contact our rep at PG&E, like we have with the water pipelines, like we're working with Clackamas County now to clear it out and to keep it cleared out. I mean, I think honestly, the conversation that we need to have is awareness just on the transient population. It's summertime. We're seeing new faces here. I know I've been accused of fear mongering in my emails, but the truth is that data and facts don't lie, and the things that are occurring, you can't argue with factual proof. I'm sorry, you just can't. And these things are starting to happen now as we've reached a more summertime visitor, tourist friendly, if you will, that just happen to not have cars or homes. So
so then.
call Dawn, and then if that doesn't come, if it goes to PGE, refer to me and I'll take it from there work with it with Melanie.
So it'd be reasonable to investigate, and then if that's what we're finding, then pursue next steps, like a
Yes.
sign or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I worked private security all over Portland and metro area, and needles were our number one problem. And one day at Mall 205, we filled over 1,000 spent needles just in the Mall 205 thing. Do not, your best option, I agree with Lieutenant Mendoza, put up a sign who to contact. I have found loaded needles. I have pictures of them, stacks with already had heroin and everything in them. These needles will be coated with fentanyl because they're habitual users. So your best option would be a sign of who to contact to come clean up, do not touch. Unless you are wearing gloves, or I wouldn't even, unless you've had training on how to pick up sharps.
Right. All
And
right,
that's a
then.
personal experience because I had to be trained on it.
Sounds like a plan. Who wants to call Don?
Jim, I nominate Jim.
Okay, Jim will call Don, we'll investigate and then take next steps based on what we get back. Okay,
Like I said, if it comes back as PG&E,
okay. So do we have a plan with our substance abuse? Okay. All right, then are we ready to move on? Any other questions on the substance? Okay. National Night Out Planning, next topic, National Night Out Planning. Heath was running that and Heath is not here. Do we have any updates?
I just got a text from Heath. I will be getting together with him on lining some things up. We do have that on the calendar right now. That's on there.
Yes, it's on the city's calendar.
Okay. Yeah, there was a little blip where it didn't get put on, so no biggie. That's all I've got. He has a list of folks, vendors and stuff that he has pulled from, so he just texted me and said we could get together next week and kind of update on who and what's gonna come. Jim? Oh, sorry.
I just, sorry, I just trying to remember from last year. This is to Evelyn or John. Do we have to fill out a permit to occupy the parking lot across the street?
I believe, yes, you need to
I
do
remember,
that.
I do remember filling one out last year. Is there a end date that we need to have it submitted by?
I don't know, but I can find out for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So-
And just go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jim.
Just an update. I know Carrie's gonna go over all this stuff with Heath, but obviously gonna purchase, I'm assuming, stuff for the kids. Heath has all that information from the National Night Out event package that I got in the mail, and didn't know who was gonna purchase it, because I know that that has come up recently within the last month as the city is moving to purchase items for the committee. So just wanted to bring that up. I know we have a $500 budget for National Night Out. And I know Don got us our pop-up tents last year. He dropped those off, and I have confirmation that Christie's food cart will be there for the event. And that's all I have right now for that.
So the process to purchase things, is it someone purchases them and then submits the,
So how we used to do it is that any member on the committee could purchase something themselves, and then they'd fill out the deposit form, have two other members of the committee sign off on it, and then submit it to the city for reimbursement. But starting July 1st, which is the new fiscal year, all purchases need to go through the city. So if you need to purchase something, you'd send it to your staff member, which would be me, and then I would get it purchased directly through the city.
so going on Amazon, seeing 5,000 balloon heads for, I'm making this up, 5,000 balloon heads for $100, we would just let you know that or
Yep,
something like
just
that.
send me the link of what you'd like, the quantity, and then we'd get it purchased for you.
Okay.
What inspired that change?
That was recommended by our auditors, and it was a staff decision made by that recommendation from the auditors. It was discussed by the city manager and our finance director, Sadie.
Thank you.
Okay, then for the National Night Out Subcommittee, are you guys okay with picking things out and letting Evelyn know? Or do you want someone else to take that and run with it? It's like literally going and picking, what do we want to get and what do we want to hand out?
He has a flyer. He has a big old book, John, on National Night Out event stuff for the kids.
Oh, okay.
So he can, all the stuff there, like you mean balloons, whistles,
Whatever it
all
is,
that
yeah,
type of
right.
stuff is in that booklet.
Okay.
So all Kerry and Heath or anyone else can get together with them. Take care, Chief, and order whatever they need, or have Evelyn order anything they need there.
Okay.
Up to a certain amount, and then, we have to, just a recommendation from last year, we had a couple of cases of water and we had some ice to hand out to people because last year it was pretty hot.
Right.
So just keep that in consideration also.
So the
For-
next committee meeting is what, like maybe a couple weeks before?
I believe so. Let me check.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone beat me. Yeah, 2 weeks before.
Okay.
No,
So would it be possible for the subcommittee to email an update to Evelyn? That then she could send out to everyone, and then Carrie will be chairing the meeting next month. But just,
If we, question, if we, today's the 25th, if we got together before the 1st, right? That's when it shifts over.
Mhm.
And we spent about $1,500 worth of stuff, we could just turn it into his, no, I'm just kidding. I mean, no,
That's a lot of
I mean,
stuff.
We could just turn it in. If we bought something, we'd still be in the time frame to turn it in.
As
and-
far as I know,
Oh,
yes,
good.
it's starting July 1st, that
Okay.
new process.
Okay, okay.
So,
We'll see what, but, yet, I don't have the time we're gonna get together, but it's gonna be, I think, this week, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway. And I don't know what we're getting either, so.
that's okay. Just let me know and I'll get it ordered.
all right.
thank you, Evelyn.
All right. Any other questions on National Night Out?
That's a good, there, Shirley just mentioned, go ahead, say it.
Okay, we were looking for the fingerprint kits for the kids that we could do the fingerprints and the parents could take them home and have them on file in case something happened to the kids. Have we been able to find those anyplace?
Not that I know of.
Jim's got
Yeah,
it.
It's in the book.
It's in the book. Okay. Yeah,
Katie.
The fingerprint kits are in that book for the kids.
are they good?
So I don't remember how much they cost, but like I said, we have a budget for up to 500, so. I mean, we can order however many, and then if we happen to do another type of event, What's Up Estacada, or like John said, if we do something with the fire department or city sponsored event, we can have leftovers and still brag about what we're doing.
And if you need to, you can pull money that you've budgeted in other areas to this if
Oh.
needed. I know you guys only spent, I think, $100 on it last year,
yeah.
and that was the only thing you bought. So if you need to
Who's counting?
move funds
Right.
from the other areas you've budgeted, as long as you're staying within your total budget, you're fine with moving stuff around.
Cool.
Okay.
It's probably in the book. Yeah, we can, the book's got a lot of stuff in it for,
So on this subcommittee, though, we've already got 3 committee members on it. So anything else on National Night Out? Okay, moving on. Next up is the Estacada Fire updates. Remember, the idea was to reach out to the Estacada Fire Department and see about gathering information, looking to them for potential training resources, and whatever else came up. And Evelyn included, I sent an email out to the chief. He did get back to me, and He said that they don't have anyone for teaching external CPR or first aid classes, but there are a number of private entities out there that do teach the topics you listed. And then also he indicated that on the Estacada Fire District website, if you go to Board of Directors, it's just like the city. I mean, everything is there. And so I downloaded the most recent report, but I didn't read. It's like, I can't remember how many pages now, 35 pages or something like that, but it's I think I haven't looked through it yet, but I think that data keep going down and it's there it is. And the chief said they're running about a month behind because of the approval process that they go through. So the data is there. So when I'll look through that and see what's in there, and then we can talk about it next time. So any questions about the Estacada Fire District? Okay, moving on. Last but not least, the speed bump, speed hump policy. This one, I was actually worried about because starting to do research and it's prodigious. There is so much information out there. And Jim went out and collected so much data. There's data for everything. It felt like reading a medical paper or something like that. And so in the interest of keeping things within our scope, because I thought it'd be something simple where we could just write a turnkey policy, hand it in, and then the city would, do what they wanted to it and then move on. And that's just, not sure that that's feasible. So what I thought instead is that if we would send them our recommendations on what we would like to see in it, maybe particular paragraphs or particular items that we all agree on, right? Something like that. What's that, Jim?
The speed hump eligibility checklist on your packet. I made everything to say City of Estacada.
Okay,
That we can add things, cross it out, do whatever. But
okay,
I think this is something that we can get Councilor Metcalf to bring back to the city council. And if I could just talk about just the research for about 60 seconds.
sure, of course.
Keep it short. What I wanted to do, when I talked to the chair, Dolenzal, I wanted to make sure that we had, due to the last city council meeting, not last night, but 2 weeks ago, there were several issues that were brought up. So I wanted to make sure that we had Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation, but there is no Federal Department of Transportation guidelines on speed humps. So I also included ODOT here for Oregon and some for Texas. Now, again, everything is in there, but I'll just go over just a couple of things. Boston, at the end of last year in October, they started doing 500 new speed humps in the neighborhoods. Now, how does that equate to Estacada? Well, let's look at the ones that we do have on. We have them on Shafford. And where do people go? They go down Shafford, but a lot of people are going over to Pierce and going really fast on Pierce. So to say that the speed humps don't work, I think that we would, caution people saying that. I think it's, if we had put them on both streets at the same time, then things would be a little bit better there. But that, we can craft that going forward. Street sweepers, on the article that I put in for, I think it's boston.com, these are the minor ones, which I think is on page 61, the difference between a speed hump and a speed bump. Street sweepers, fire engines, what they call the MBTA, back in Boston, which is the bus routes. They're so insignificant and the streets are smaller and less busy. And they do not cause any issues on the axles for these large vehicles. And Evelyn, could you quickly pull up, if you can, the pictures from, I believe, the speed cushions that I think I sent you? If those are easily accessible. I just want to, with the street sweepers, the de-icer, the fire engines, and the bus, we all have, speed humps would be a good idea on some of these streets. And the elevation, as is addressed in here where it says the grades. Okay, this is Southwest Portland. Thank you, Evelyn. And this is one where you can see that they've made a cognizant effort with the fire department in Portland to make sure that the bus and the fire engine is able to get through mostly unimpeded here. Hey, could you show the other one, Evelyn? Well, I think it's a long distance shot. So you can see how little it is, or almost insignificant, but because of the chevrons there, people know that the speed humps are there. Are you able to go to the other pictures also, Evelyn, please? And then these other ones that Evelyn's going to show you, these are the list of other things. If we don't have a speed hump, or if we don't come up with a policy on a speed hump can go in your neighborhood, then we have, at least in the research, speed cushions, speed tables, raised intersections, center islands, rumble strips, feedback signs. And this right here, on my way to the VA last week, you can see how this is raised, not very significantly at all. This is called a speed cushion. This is on Southwest Hamilton Terrace, going up to Terwilliger, to the top of the hill there by OHSU and the VA, and you can see that people can actually park on these. So they're not very significant at all. They're a lot wider than the ones on Shafford, but they slow people down, and that's what we want. We want everyone to be safe. And I think that's all I have. That's longer than a minute, but thank you, John. There's another good picture right there. And there should be a motorcycle too, Evelyn, so we can see that, just taking his time.
It looked, in reading the as much of the information as I could, several things. One, the idea of accommodating emergency vehicles or law enforcement vehicles, that's something we want to do. Something that we would want to incorporate into the city's code for speed humps or what have you. It did look like there were a multitude of different ways to do it, offsetting half streets, or covering half the street, one lane of the street, and then a little further down, having another one come out so that the vehicles could zigzag. There's all sorts of ways to do it, and deferring to the city to figure out what's best for that circumstance, knowing that there's a long list of options depending on the what they're trying to mitigate. Because if you've got a speed bump that isn't very big and doesn't make your car do much, somebody will just blow right through that, versus the steeper ones where it actually, there's a significant jolt to the car, that sort of thing. Leaving those choices to Don or whoever makes those decisions, but just incorporating our recommendations that we accommodate emergency vehicles in when they decide what sort of whatever you call it, device or what have you to use. What other things? were we interested in? One of the things I saw with Sandy is they had a clearly defined program objectives and guiding principles. And I really liked how that looked. It was nice and soft. It just kind of, why do we have this policy? And what guides us in making our decisions? And so I don't know if this is this in the, I might not be in the packet. It's from the Sandy information. It's page 3, 4, and 5. So objectives, provide solutions that improve livability among publicly owned neighborhoods, provide a means of residents to work together to seek solutions. That's that sort of thing in the objectives. And then the guiding principles is what they called it, is the purpose of local streets is to provide access to abutting properties and connect to higher order roads. Traffic volumes on local streets should be consistent with the density of residential development. There's more to it, but I just liked how that was worded, and I thought that would be a real nice addition to the beginning of whatever the city comes up with. Any thoughts on that?
Was
Yeah, I
that,
think I
go
think
ahead,
what
Gary.
this is doing is saying safety is the first thing. There is inconvenience for going over a speed hump, so you have to slow down. When we look at this thing, it's supposed to be to keep people safe or to get those speeding vehicles down in the neighborhood. So if the banner over this thing is safety and we have multiple options depending on the location of where they go, I think we're on course here totally, because what does that say?
Yeah, this speaks, the first item on program objectives. I didn't read the whole thing, but it said provide solutions that improve livability along publicly owned neighborhood streets through the thoughtful implementation of a traffic management program by properly controlling vehicular traffic and enhancing the safety and ability to walk and bicycle, right, while reducing accidents and maintaining emergency vehicle access.
I think that says
That's
it
the whole
all right
enchilada.
there. That's
Yeah.
the package right there. Opposing these things would be if it was a bump, which we know what a bump is. It's like a slam dunk, up, down, wham. That's not going to work with vehicles, emergency vehicles, especially for a fire truck that's full of water. That's not conducive to do that. That was part of the statement with the fire department, is the maintenance on the vehicle. So with all these options, I think the safety takes the crown over it's not convenient moment. I just wanted to say that because people don't like them. Well, then don't drive down that road at 40 miles an hour. That's kind of the statement.
So
50 miles an hour.
I don't know, is there anything, I would like to add the thing I got from the Sandy thing, but otherwise, does Evelyn have everything that we want her to have to pass along? Yeah, Jim.
Well, you want all the information and all the research to go to the city council and then they craft it, or do we want to send them something? That's just a question.
Yeah, my thought is to send them what you've done,
Okay.
what's
Well,
in
I
the
think
packet.
there's a couple of things on here. I left everything in here from Oregon City, but
Okay,
I think if we go just through the checklist,
okay,
just a couple of minutes. And because I know we talked about it last time, but we weren't rushing things.
okay.
We can look closer at this, and obviously Oregon City's more than 5,750 people. And I think there's some things in here that we don't need. So that was my only point here.
So,
But I think they have enough information, yes. I think Council Metcalf would agree.
what were you thinking of specifically on this checklist?
The 8% grade on the hills.
When I was looking through all of that information, I think it was the Sandy information specifically addressed that 8% grade. And I think it referred specifically to, I'm not sure if it was a federal agency, but there was a reason that it's 8%. And anything above 8%, they don't allow. I did find out that Fourth is 18%, Oakview is 14%, and I think someone said there's a street around here that's got a 35% grade or something like that.
Cascadia Ridge.
That wasn't Cascadia, that had like a 14 or 16% grade, but it was some other one that was in the 30s. But I think I wish I had it, but I think there's go ahead.
No, so we should recommend that the speed hump not be done on these areas. We use an alternative, like a speed cushion.
Well, I
Because I
think-
don't, think we should say in these neighborhoods, because I think this is the reason why we're here all these years later. People are pissed off at speeding in town, and they're speeding in neighborhoods.
Right.
And I think that we should make it ground level, whether it's Cascadia Ridge or Campanella, everyone the same. I know we're not all the same, but we have to be careful. If we're not going to put a speed hump on something that's over 8%, we need to replace it with something else. 2, 3, 4 things for the city to implement. Flashing light, spray paint something on the ground. We have to do something, John. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. And all I'm saying is that I think the city is compelled to follow federal law, if that's what indeed it is. That's all I'm saying is I think that 8% comes from something specific. It's not a number that was pulled out of a hat or anything like that.
It's just Oregon City. And
No,
what my
understood. No, I read
research-
it. I read it in Sandy.
was
I read
no-
it in multiple cities have that same 8% grade. It wasn't just Oregon City. And so that's why I think that 8% number comes from a specific place. And so they might not be allowed to put like a speed hump or something on a street that has an 8% grade by law, or that's all I'm saying is I saw it in multiple places.
So talk me through alternatives to move the conversation forward.
Right. And so, to your point though, that's if we have streets in this city that have grades like that, and if we can't by law put a speed bump, then we need to investigate other ways to calm traffic, be it lights or what have you. I don't know if we need to be that specific, but if a street is identified as being a candidate for a speed bump, but a speed bump is not appropriate per whatever rule, then to pursue other traffic calming.
Can I interject an
Sure.
alternative here? There was something new that Melanie just discussed, that there's now options where that you guys could look at things like photo radar legally, and placing those where the city could purchase and utilize photo radar in certain areas. So I don't know how that would apply to a hill or where, but there is alternatives. Now, I'm gonna stay out of the discussion of what you guys decide, but that is a new, like a recent thing that has changed, that is an alternative that you can implement.
I know the people on Eagle Creek Highway would love to have radar on that road.
I bet.
That's out of town though.
No, I'm talking about down by Campanella's down in there, not out of town.
I have a question. Jim, what was in the data research you did when you were out traveling? You said different percentage rates on grade other than 8%?
No, there is no national, it's like there's a national speed limit, but states and counties and towns can do whatever they want once they do a traffic study. the 8% must be from something local. Because I just showed you 7 photos in Portland where they're called speed cushions instead of speed humps. And that's probably a 30% grade. So I'm not here to invent the wheel. I'm just trying to make our community safer. Whether you call it a speed cushion or you do rumble strips or make people aware that they're going too fast, that's all I'm here to do.
So if we had just eliminate that question, you know, the city will, if a street is identified regardless of the grade, where they want a speed hump or some speed, you know, whatever type of device, just eliminate that question, and then they'll, you know, the Donald investigator, whoever is assigned, will investigate the location. And then if they can do something like that, then they will. And if they can't, then they'll have to come up with something else. It's so taking that question out would just remove that restriction so that they can look at all streets.
Or you can leave that in there and just add, if, you know, if it doesn't, if it's over 8%, then alternative measures will kick in, and then list the measures as to inform the public when they fill this out and they know what the minimum criteria is.
We could just, I'm just thinking if we could just eliminate it completely, and then the person responsible for installing whatever is appropriate, they'll know that as
Right.
part of their job, and they can just do whatever. So
I mean, we have the Clackamas County Sheriff up at 4th, and we have cats getting run over on Cascadia Ridge. These are all over 8%. And this is the problem we're having.
right.
So do we keep it or not keep it? It's up to you guys. I just want to make sure that there's another option, like Councilor Metcalf said, we have something else besides the speed hump moving forward.
Right.
The other thing you need to just keep in mind with this as you're developing this is you want the code to be uniform, and you don't want this to be something that you miss. So regardless on whether that's in there or not, you still need to address the language that says that on a hill, right, or some sort of an incline, C section, whatever, for considerations or whatnot. Like, how would that read, Brian? Like, it would need to be something, no matter what, we don't want that to be a missed gap where then it's a group of people sitting in a circle pointing fingers at each other. Well, we could, but we don't know, like.
Yeah, it has to be clear, basically, like the wording of it. And I just looked it up, that the 8% grade, it comes from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is, we use that to calculate our SDCs. So it's the ITE, if you want to look up their guidelines for
Right.
traffic calming. So that's where all that comes from.
Okay. And so.
Thank you,
So what
Brian.
is that?
Yeah.
What, Jim?
He said.
No, I said, thank you, Brian.
Oh, okay.
So alternative measures for that would be, maybe look at changing the wording would be my suggestion.
So then change the words, I mean, just flip it the other way, say, are the grades on the street greater than 8%? Because that would cause like a flow chart. It would cause them to look at other means then. Does that work? Does that accomplish what we're trying to do?
So it derives the question, then it's just a chat.
Right.
Identifies that it is a slope. However, that doesn't mean you're out for whatever other safety considerations or factors you have built in.
So we'd have to change the preamble then, or not. I mean, we could be overdoing this by far, is because it says on the top that all of them need to be answered yes. And so if they're all yes, then it's it just goes right through. But if it's a no, if you answer no to any of these questions or ensure, so just, if you, it's a no, so leaving it like it is, because if it's an 18% grade, and so it's a no, because it's not less than 8%, that would just cause the city staff then to look and see what measures would be appropriate in that instance.
Well, even if it was a no, that would initially, right, in theory, that would initially trigger you to have to look at
Correct.
what made it fail. Right? Or would you rather, Brian, if you were to read an application like this, let's just simplify this if you don't mind. If you were to read this as an application and it came across, would you want to see like a specialty consideration section where question would follow directly under that? Or would you just go down the checklist? No, in this case, or yes, it's above 8% grade, which would disqualify this application initially. Is that just a rubber stamp, or does that make you then trigger you to look at, okay, specifically this question? Right? Because no matter what, there's gonna have to be a subsection in code. I'm sure we're gonna have to come up with for this consideration, but
Well, as I'm looking through this, the ITE guidelines, and 8% is across the board for every single calming measure. Like they had raised crosswalks and things like that. So 8% seems to be like the cutoff. So I think if you're going down the list and there are things that 100% disqualify that street, which would be a grading issue, then it would just kill that application.
for speed bump, but then we could go.
Right, and then we can find other
Ha-
measures, and I haven't even made it through the entire list of things yet as I'm reading through.
Okay.
But 8% seems to be the cutoff for every single one of these.
So maybe-
That involves raising. the
So
street.
maybe that is speed hump application. I think maybe
Correct.
alternative measures
Right.
is a separate conversation.
Correct, exactly right.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this? Submit this and the other thing that we talked about as our recommendation for the speed hump. And then let the city council know that other traffic calming measures would be necessary for quite a few streets in our city.
And we do have that traffic control or safety device request form already, like people can fill that out now. So if that question was a no, it could direct them to say, oh, you don't qualify for a speed hump bump, but fill out the traffic control safety device request. And then that triggers Don to look at what he can implement in
Right.
that area.
Yeah, Jim.
Thank you, Evelyn, for that. That's a great segue into the next one in regards to do we need to, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, I did see 85 percentile speeds on quite a few of these I don't want to say surveys, but studies. Is that something that we need to include? I mean, you know, we're so small. Do we have the functionality to right off the bat do 9 traffic studies for speed humps? I know we're at the beginning stages here, but I think that, I mean, I know we talked about it before.
I think
but-
that would be a Don question, honestly,
Okay,
to see what his capacity is for it. Cause I don't know, cause I know,
right,
I think we only have one device.
right.
So, yeah, I'd ask Don.
And
So does
then-
that imply that we would have to do a speed study before we could do that? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And again, I left all Oregon cities in there. I
Yeah.
wanted it up to the committee to scratch or add or whatever.
How about just eliminating that particular question?
Okay,
Because
And-
my thought is that, I mean, you could do the traffic study, and what it basically is saying is there 85% of the people going less than 5 miles an hour over the limit. Those aren't the people we're worried about. It's the ones that are flying through there. And so by eliminating this question, it eliminates potentially the need for doing a speed study. As making it a so just don't make it a requirement for the city to investigate.
And then there was the other one about carrying vehicles, whether it be 2,500 or not per day. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere close to that, maybe in a week. You know, just looking at the one on Shafford, we weren't even close to any of
Yeah.
those. So
No, and eliminate that too. It just makes it shorter and sweeter.
if that's what everyone agrees to,
That
Just-
sound good?
try to make it easy.
Yeah, we've got a consensus on that.
Forward on this.
So consensus to drop the 2,500 vehicle question and consensus to drop the 85 percentile speeds question.
Yeah.
That sound good?
Yeah.
Are we good with everything else?
Just a
On this
question,
topic?
on the second one, John. Transportation service to the community, that would be bus line. And I'm assuming, since the bus route comes in on, Main Street, that's a major collector, so that wouldn't even relate to this eligibility checklist. So I think we should just scratch that one unless I'm incorrect in what that reads. What do you say, Brian?
I'm thinking where it comes down like
It's all-
Eagle.
so it's all mainline right now,
What do you mean?
all like highway, main. they don't-
Yeah, the
Which we would
major-
put
Major
it on
streets,
anyway.
not minor ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
we couldn't do anything on those streets with this.
Even
It was
even
just-
in the new development stuff, I think anything stopwise is on the outside. Like it would be like, say Deuce would be the example where you would see the bus stop versus you wouldn't see it in.
Yeah, the streets we're talking about aren't these throughways. So, yeah, that makes sense to drop that one too.
Unless their route changes with like, maybe in the future, they went up the hill and like went out that way and came down to Eagle Creek to pick up the people that live up on the hill. That's just,
Yeah,
Future
we could
thinking.
adjust it, you know, the policy could be adjusted at that
yeah, they
time.
did that.
You're talking about the city buses?
This is all hypothetical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they come down Eagle Creek and down Eagle Creek, then down Sixth and then.
Right. So there's consensus then in dropping that one as well. The street does not provide transportation services. So consensus on dropping those three questions.
Yep.
Yeah, Jim.
The last one, John, I wasn't so much clear. I was hoping maybe Council Metcalf or Brian could answer it. A primary access route for emergency vehicles. I mean, that would be almost every street because considerably every residence would have a medical emergency, a fire, a police incident, a SWAT incident. I mean, that one I just didn't understand. Because that would be almost that would be every street, wouldn't
I
it?
read it as some kind of traffic control around the station itself.
I would say like roads like Cemetery Road, but that's like the main way to get
Right.
up there. Like that would
Oh.
be a primary access. And
Right.
I bet the fire department has like a primary access
List.
like list that they're either
Okay.
in the process of making with the hazard mitigation plan, or
Okay.
maybe they already have one, but like main routes that they would take to get to certain neighborhoods. Is that how you would interpret it?
I would, yeah, I was with him on also like, we wouldn't speed bump in front of the
Right.
fire station, like on that access road. But I wouldn't allow them to consider, say, Broadway, like in through Campanella or something, a main route that you can't speed bump, just because it's a main route that we use. If it's then in the community, I wouldn't say, that's where I would urge caution on accepting that verbiage, but the way I would read that would be like, we're not gonna put a speed bump out here, right? Like right out
Right.
front of City Hall on Sixth, whatever, right? Or we're not gonna put one on Sixth, we're not gonna put it on the River Mill Highway. That's how I would interpret that. I mean, let's be realistic here. Emergency vehicles navigate in Portland in flat neighborhoods. They navigate these speed humps, speed cushions, whatever, what have you, speed mitigation items
Right.
as it is. So it's not something that's new. It might be new to us, but it's not a new concept. So
I wonder if it's not actually redundant because the primary access route is not going to be a small residential street. It's
That-
going to be
that's it, yeah.
the major collectors. And so just dropping that one as well.
I would say just. I like having that. That way we don't get into people thinking that they can request a speed bump in front of, say, Wade Creek, the apartments or
Right.
something, which is what I think it's set up
Oh.
to try to stop that kind of.
Or it could be, you could reword it to be basically saying that like the fire department has some kind of authority over this decision. Like that question might be, I don't know, like if the fire department has an issue with this, then we shouldn't put it there, like something like that. Like
And then
maybe,
move to
maybe
another
that one would give
device.
power to the fire department.
Yeah, I'd be cautious about that though, because then if we're getting into bias
City.
on like. Bias on maintenance cost or something like that, and that's gonna be your determining factor versus. Safety, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. But again, I think you're headed in the right direction with this. I think it's just. Do you clarify that or do you remove it? And then, I mean, in some way, shape or form, I think that will somehow make its way back into the code, but it will just be covered up in
So,
other stuff. Yeah.
Right.
It will get blended with some sort of artery fact is what I would see that as, because emergency vehicles are always going to be a consideration.
so are we, the idea of making it as simple as possible, eliminating that question? Does that work?
Simple.
Okay, there you go. Consensus is to eliminate that question as well.
Good, good.
Okay, we're running out of questions.
Two more,
Gotcha.
John,
Yes, sir.
I promise. The privately funded speed humps and removal of speed humps. Maybe Brian can help me with that last one. I know we've talked about the private ones.
So I have clarity for you on that. Melanie spoke to that at the city council meeting, and what that was these neighborhoods that have decided to fund it themselves. Do they get moved up the list? Essentially, it's not that that the expectation will be then that all the neighborhoods are expected to pay for their own, but say it's a community that has identified that they want one, 75% of the communities decided that they want one, they're willing to privately fund it. Do we move them up the list of getting it done because they're gonna pay for it out of their own expense? I think that was the conversation being had, that there's allowing people to essentially take care of it themselves, but we move it up the line on when it gets done. That was just where that draft idea, I think, came from, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right? I think it was something along those lines is what Melanie was talking about. It wasn't that the expectation of cost was gonna get passed on to the citizens, because I came after that pretty hard as well.
But I think it should be safety first, not who pays for a speed bump. The speed bump started for the safety of these kids. I mean, if you have the money to pay for a speed bump, that's good, but there's communities that don't have the money, that have the school systems that need the damn speed bumps, period.
The process is the same in terms of eligibility for a speed control device. And it's gonna have to go through the city anyways. And
Even if they wanted to pay for it themselves.
Right.
It would still meet, they'd have to meet. all
Right.
these rules.
And so if the citizens of the city request a speed hump or whatever, and it is approved by the city, would we want a privately funded option, or would we want to keep that with the city?
It would still fall to city code. They're just identifying that they're willing to pay for it to move it now.
Oh, in terms of, oh, you mean speed only as increasing the speed that it's installed factor?
They would be funding the project. So rather than say that the Dawn's budget for speed bumps this year is $2,500 or what, I'm just giving you
Understood. Yeah. I'm tracking.
hypothetical here, but if his budget is for speed bump installation this year, say $2,500, which would be more than that, but let's just say that's the number, then these guys wouldn't count towards that, but because they're privately paying for it, which wouldn't remove your budget, they would move up to a priority of installation because they're essentially paying to move it, right? So
You know, that may be a moot point then, because if from it's a budget standpoint, if he doesn't have the budget, he's already done the job that he could. And so then if someone wants to come in and fund it themselves,
do you allow them to pay for it to happen faster?
That's the point right there.
Yeah, yeah.
It would have to be in the code.
Yeah,
Like, it would have to be stated, otherwise they just couldn't do it. Like, even if they wanted to pay for it.
Man, that opens a can of worms. Yes, sir.
For the privately funded ones, what ends up happening is that the city runs out of money. And they want one put in, and it's not gonna not be budgeted until next year. If they privately fund it, can you put it in then? Because like you hit on it about the money. If you've already spent it all on, these are the ones identified, this is all we can do this year, community puts in an application, we'll fund it to get it done also. But the budget's done, we'll pay for it, so you can do it that year instead of waiting until the next fiscal year budgeting. My parents did it with their lake. They ran out of money to put speed bumps in, section of the community paid for it, and they put them in because they didn't have the funding. They funded it and got it done.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's not, if it's done within that year, it's not taking away from anybody. Because a city funded one, it won't happen until the following year. And so if there's a neighborhood that feels so strongly that they're able to pass the hat and get it done in that same year that the budget has been used up, that doesn't seem like an unreasonable route. I don't think it would be a very common route, but I don't see it as being an unreasonable route either. If it's done within the same year and so doesn't impact the ability of other projects.
What I'm saying is we've been working on these speed bumps. Okay, the city funds it. Okay, the city says, we want, put a speed bump in. Somebody says, well, I want my speed bump first. So I will pay for it. You come in and put mine in
Yeah,
first.
we're not talking about that at all.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
want to know.
no, we're talking about a project that comes up, but there's no money in the budget for the
That's
current
fine.
fiscal year. And so it goes into a waiting list. And then I'm assuming actually in the policy itself, having a date when the project is submitted kind of thing, so that there's a rank order.
So I'll give you a working example of this.
Sure.
What comes to my mind is like the sidewalk improvements. When we go through the budget list, when they presented the budget at the budget meeting, they specifically listed these 2 or 3 streets are our priority this year for sidewalks. So as we're going to addressing speed bumps, there's 2 things going on with the speed bump thing. One, you're creating code going forward that will go to developers so that they know how to place them going forward on infrastructure, right? On new stuff that won't be city related. That will be on them and their infrastructure they have to do. But then 2, when we do this, it's not going to be, we snap our, and I know you understand this, I'm just stating this for the
Yeah, yeah.
public, that we snap our fingers and then over the next 4 weeks, we have speed bumps all over town. That's not how it's going to be. There'll have to be a budget created and then an attack list on what this is. I'm assuming between the committee and city council's direction, they go after these certain neighborhoods. Now, with that, if you were to sit in that budget meeting and realize like, or look online and you realize your community didn't make the list for 2025, for example, then could you privately fund to have your street addressed? Like, I don't think it's a matter of paying to say like, I'm jumping to the top of the list. It's just moving you up the priority list because you are the paying entity. Your community is the paying entity. That's how I would interpret that. But we could also ask that to be very clear in code, right? So that it's not misleading in the way that it's stated, if that makes sense. So the way that is worded could be cleaned up. You could just maybe
Right.
circle that, clean the wording up on this so that it's more detailed.
So it's not pay to play. It's these funds aren't available this year. We'll do it. And so it's not displacing.
Yeah, I'm not willing to wait until you guys get to me,
Right,
so.
right. I mean, something like that sounds reasonable.
And there will come a point where this gets caught up and then that is no longer a consideration because once you introduce this code going forward,
Right.
all the new infrastructure will have this. So, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, government moves slow is what they tell us, but I mean, we've been doing really well at communicating and addressing things, but we have to be realistic and, you know, are we gonna see 2 to 3 streets a year where this is? Are we gonna see a community that they take care of it at a time? Is it 1 year it's gonna be Campanella, the next year it's gonna be Cascade Ridge, next year it's gonna be Reagan Hill? That determination's not been made yet, because this will be something that we have to figure out a budget for and a cost and all the associated thing. But then if Campanella gets it and the city's out of money, but then say Reagan Hills, like my cat got ran over, working with a real example here, like, and my neighbors and I were willing to do this just to put an end to this, then why not continue to work, right? And I think that's where, but in hearing this conversation, I would circle that with like a clarification of, you know, just clarify that remark more. That way it's just more, it's not that we don't understand it, but it makes it more palatable for if the public was to read so that they
Right.
understand.
So something along the lines of if city funds are not available, a privately funded speed mitigation option is available. And just leave it like that.
Yes, yeah, I mean, with the notation that it still falls under city code, right? Like, it's not
Yeah.
that you're gonna be able to put your rubber.
Right.
on it.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jeb?
Mm. Well, the way, like Councilor Metcalf said, the way it's written, it's basically the ones that can find once a location has been approved, then they've committed in writing to privately fund. Then the city will make a drawing indicating the number and locations and warning signs. Petitions, then we'll get a approved contractor to install a speed hump. That all needs to be rewritten, because I'm not for the privately funded. That's just me, but
So something like a requiring all speed hump, or however we want to label this, request go through the city process. And if when it's been completed, or the process has been completed and the project has been approved, if there are no city funds available for the project in the current fiscal year, is a private funding option possible? You know, have them have to go through what everybody does, and if it gets approved, then fine, we wouldn't allow unapproved projects. But then if in that fiscal year, they can either choose to wait and they're in whatever their lineup is, or if they choose to pay it themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Oh, are we waiting for you to say something?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Yeah. You can, I don't think you can hear it.
Okay. Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me now. What I was saying wasn't that interesting anyways. No, so just to reiterate, all speed bump requests go through the city process, and if approved, join the list, triaged by the city, word it however you like. And then if in a fiscal year, a project was not completed, there can be an option for it to be privately funded. But at no time can a project not approved by the city be installed with private funds.
Yeah, as a liaison, I'm just gonna be honest with you, you're gonna have a really hard time selling to council that if somebody is willing to privately pay for speed bumps, that we're not gonna allow you to privately pay for it, because the installation, what you wouldn't get is, and I'm just trying to be clear.
Sure.
What you wouldn't get is, we're not gonna allow you to go and put your own speed bumps in with like the rubber ones, for example, with stakes. We're not gonna allow you to go drill holes and just come up with your own thing. No matter what, it has to meet the city code.
That's
That-
the whole
that
part
would-
about going through the process
Yeah.
and being approved by the
But
city.
I just don't think you're gonna I mean, I'll present whatever.
Sure.
But I don't think you're gonna get buy-in for somebody to say that if Campanella, I don't know, let's just pick a resident, comes and they say, hey, I got 25 grand together privately funded to get all 8 of these speed bumps done. I don't think that the city is gonna tell them, no, we're not gonna do it. I think I don't see that that means you put them in the head of what the city has too. I think that just gets added to the list of things that we attack. I don't think that there's a route where you can tell people that they can't, if they're willing to pay for it, to make it happen in 2025 or 2026. I don't see a route where we can say no. And that's where I think we need to be. We can present whatever you want, but I
Yeah,
don't
no,
see
it's-
that passing.
Yeah, and the fact that we're having this kind of conversation in this committee now, I can't even imagine what it would be like in the city. And so, I mean, I'm okay not dying on this hill. You know, it's just dropping that provision completely. It's perfectly fine with me. If the city wants to, some other time, if it's something worth addressing, if it becomes an issue, it may not even be an issue. You know, it's something we can address later. So what I'm saying is, excluding a private pay option and from the policy. Is that what I'm hearing? Jim? Okay. Oh, you can't.
That's just fine with me. I just, looking at the end of it, and I see Council Metcalf's point, if people are bringing issues with accidents, speeding, pets, God forbid, humans crossing to go to school, obviously we want them to have priority.
Right.
So I understand both sides, 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that we're not able to actually communicate our ideas just in this committee. And so again,
It just comes to access, right? So if I have the money, I should be able to access said service. That's what that comes to. But at the same time, because I don't have the money, doesn't mean that I shouldn't rate or warrant said service either. Like my safety shouldn't be on the back burner because I can't afford it. And I don't think that that's the argument being made here.
right,
I think the argument being made is, do we say, hey, sorry, you're not on 2025's list of neighborhoods we're working on, so it's out? Because the way I read that also is that then the city will contract subcontractor. So this might not even be a Dawn thing. This could be somebody that's working on a neighborhood that then breaks away because this neighborhood is, we're already subcontracted with them. They privately paid for it and they move from there to there. They just continue, whereas initially when we contract people, it's gonna be for specifically, okay, we've signed a contract with these guys for 4th and 6th Street this year. And, or Dawn's guys or whatever, they're gonna install. And that is, as we've seen with sidewalks, it's a slower process, right? So there's gonna be people that don't wanna wait, and do we deny them the right to that? Cause I mean, let's just use the same model. If we went to sidewalks, if there's people willing to pay for sidewalks, I'm sure that you would have them have sidewalks right now. Like if they were the ones paying for it or doing it, there would be no complaint. But what we're talking about is because it's a speed bump, it's a little bit more of a sensitive issue because it's better for the whole community, right? Versus a walking down a sidewalk, but it's the same theory. So it's give take here. I don't think that that's where I say you just clear up the language on that it doesn't make it that, okay, Campanella's paying for it. So sorry, 4th and 6th, now you're getting bumped to 2026. It just means that they're gonna get done. They're going on the list now, not whenever we establish what's next. So that's just my concerns. Again, I'll present whatever you guys come to. It doesn't matter to me, but I think you're gonna get hard to get buy-in. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think we have clarity amongst ourselves with this particular issue. And so,
I make a motion, we table it.
this particular, not the speed bump,
No, just.
what we've talked about ourselves, but the private pay option.
Let's table it till next meeting.
You don't, unfortunately, I would not suggest you table the whole thing. or that option either. We need to give something that can go to council. Cause I mean, one, we were wanting this to be done. And now we're bringing it to them and then. I mean, I can tell you that at the council meeting, this is a topic now that's been
Right, right.
chewing out. We're looking for updates. So you maybe don't have a decision on that particular one. Maybe we revisit that one when, because they're gonna bring it back to you to review once it's written anyway. So maybe you just circle that one and review.
That's what you just said. is
Okay, but
drop
I wouldn't-
that One.
As
part,
long
but
as we're
submit
still gonna
everything
present.
else, everything else goes. Just
Just
that
wanted to
one
check.
little part doesn't. Because that's the only thing that we've got no clarity on whatsoever is the private pay option. Everything else we've agreed to. And so should we
I make a motion that we table the private, part of the speed bumps till next meeting and move on with the suggestions for the
Can they
speed
make a
bumps.
motion? They don't have a quorum.
Yeah, they do. They have-
Oh,
Here,
Tim's
okay,
there.
okay, sorry.
I
Sorry,
counted.
I just-
No, I counted.
Second that.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Yeah,
I just had a question about the last thing. My apologies about the removal of speed humps. It would probably just Brian, if that was a necessity. Once something gets put in, why would we want to remove it? And it says on this, due to public safety reasons. That's the reason why we're installing those. So just a question for the committee.
I would recommend at this time tabling that aspect as well and just get something in the hands of the city council, because
Okay.
that's what they want. And then we can hash
Got it.
out the private pay and the removal policies at another time. That sound
Sounds
like a
good.
plan?
Sounds like a
All
plan,
right.
John.
Yeah, so let's, so it's been moved and seconded to remove the or table the private pay option for speed bumps but proceed with presenting our recommendations for the general speed bump policy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. All right. Thank you. Reports and comments, Tasha,
Comments?
I
Any
don't
comments?
have any.
Oh,
Shirley?
how about the boards? When we'll do that next time too. We're in a circle reports from the different boards that we went to.
That was next meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And that
why don't we
we
do
have-
that next? Yeah,
I second it.
okay. Jim, any comments?
Yes, Evelyn, again, thank you for giving you all that information, publications, photographs. I appreciate it. And I just
Welcome.
wanted to say on this committee, Brian, thank you so much. We appreciate you and we're sad that you are leaving. And best of luck to you and your family.
Thanks. You got me for one more meeting.
Oh, bonus. There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I want to thank you, Jim, and thank you, John, for just all your work on this. This was very, very detailed, very thorough, and I just appreciate your guys' sincerity about trying to do this right for the community. Yeah, especially as a dad with young kids and stuff like that. All these topics are really, they hit me emotionally also outside of just for this community. So I really appreciate your guys' work going forward on this too. And I think you guys are awesome at having great conversation and trying to get to the bottom of it. And you did a really good job at directing the conversation today to keep it flowing. I know we still went 2 hours, but that could have been a 4-hour conversation on speed bumps alone. So, I mean, that's a great job on that tonight. And then just whatever I can do to help you guys continue. Like I said, I brought the RV thing up. They're working on code for the RV. I'm just updating you on some things. That's already in motion. It's happening faster than I would have suspected. The speed bump thing, my heart in this is just that I know that that has been asked twice now. And it's the first time I told them I deferred for you guys to actually be able to sit with this and look. And then now it's they want to try to get you a working model. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they want to try to get something that we can hammer out. So you guys are getting things done, which is incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone again. I mean, it's every single meeting, every single committee member brings something unique in their own experience, and it just makes everything that comes out of this committee that much stronger. And I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all your efforts. And thank you, Brian, and thank you, Evelyn. All right, then.
Thank you.
Do I just, meeting's adjourned?
I'm freezing.